we are going to be diving into a powerful interview with Dr. Vince Burke in just a few minutes here. So definitely stick around, stay tuned. It's going to be a powerful conversation about values, about human performance, about being your greatest possible self, and truly embodying that every single day. So stick around. Before we dive into that, though, I just want to say thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for tuning in, for choosing to be your greatest possible self with us here today, growing on the journey and just taking one step at a time. And if you are someone, especially a woman, who is committed to being around other empowering women, you want to get out to Las Vegas for Meant for More, a live women's empowerment event, 3-day event coming up here in April 24th, 26th, 25th, and 26th. Meant for More, run by Petia Kolibova. You will absolutely transform yourself. Such an empowering environment to be in. So definitely get out there. Go to meantformore.live, and you can find out more about the upcoming event, and look forward to seeing you there. Next up is our iTunes review of the week. This week it's by Jay Inspiration, who says, greatest possible podcast. Chris is committed to being his best, his guests being their best, and his audience being inspired to take action to transform their lives. Jay Inspiration, absolutely 100% I am. And if you want a chance to get shouted out on a future 12-hour live stream, go to beyourgps.com/iTunes or search Greatest Possible Self on your Apple Podcast store. Find our podcast, subscribe, give a review, and let us know what you love, what you want to see more of, and how we can improve the show for you. Thanks so much for being here and growing with us. I'm going to introduce Vince in just a sec. Before that, grab a piece of paper, grab a pen, be ready to take notes. These are the qualities, the characteristics, the values that you want to master, that you want to embody to be the best version of yourself. And one idea, one discussion point in this conversation could transform everything for you. So stick around to the end because we are going deep. Let's introduce Vince and we'll bring him on the screen. Because Dr. Vincent Burke is a licensed doctor of physical therapy with a master's degree in physical therapy, and he's a certified strength and conditioning specialist, certified personal trainer, and a work hardening specialist. He has over 25 years of broad-based experience, has attained optimum results, and his area of expertise in rehabilitation is in orthopedics and sports medicine. And no matter the age, the gender, or the movement dysfunction, his other specialty is in personal training and athletic performance training, having worked with Olympians, professionals, and amateurs across a wide variety of sports and activities. This he does for the individual, the small group, or the team. And he's also given numerous presentations, was a speaker facilitator for professional higher education clinics, high school teachers, and camps for exercise, training, and injury prevention programs. Not only that, but with the use of positive reinforcement, being positive, expressing and behaving the right way, Vince's trademarked RADAR program encourages optimal human behavior for success in all aspects of life. Vince, are you ready to rock the house, my man?
Yeah, man. Chris, thanks for having me, man.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Dude, we're going to dive in, just have a blast here. Thank you for taking the time to show up and just talk about You've been featured so much, man. I was looking at your bio and I was like, man, this guy's been on so many different like news opportunities, speaking at conferences, published in journals, like all this beautiful stuff, man. So I appreciate you taking the time to share with our audience, brother. Thank you.
I appreciate you having me, and it's exciting to be on one of my first podcasts, especially with a guy like you who really inspired me when I was actually walking my new puppy. And I overheard you say, to entrepreneurs and to people who are out there with so much pressure, and you just said a few things. You need to condense your pressures and focus on what matters. And there's a lot of different things out there that it's noise and a lot of things that just don't matter, but it gets in the way of your radarship. What your responsibilities are, what you need to be accountable for, the things that you need to spend time appreciating, focusing on being determined to achieve your goals, having a good attitude, and respecting everything around you, workers, co-workers. And I'm telling you, that's what I'm finding, that there's so much today that happens, and that's toxic or whatever you want to call it. But this whole program and idea comes from positive reinforcement and being reflective on what to do versus what not to do.
Boom. Vince, this is gold, man. I really love that you touched on the radarship, right? And those values that you're already just painting the picture of what's possible for people when they take that responsibility and lead their own lives, when they show up with the right behaviors, with the right thinking, the positive mental reinforcement. And we're going to dive all into that, man. It's going to be a powerful conversation continuing from here. And before we go any further, we want to talk about this theme, meant for more. You are meant for more. What does that mean for you, Vince?
Well, the thing is that, you can, we're all created, equal, and, you have your upbringing, and then you go to school. And, we all become just ordinary people.
Yeah.
We look to our left and right, and it's about the same. Then what you need to do is say, what could you do that's extraordinary?
Oof. Oof.
And extraordinary, everybody ordinarily gets up for work and they do what's ordinary.
Mm.
And I've found so many people just being ordinary.
Yeah.
But the thing that made the radar ship strike me on saying, what are we doing with human behavior performance? I came up with this idea that we have to go back to basics.
Yes.
And I always thought that responsibility, accountability, appreciation, determination, add to respect in my upbringing, in my world of sports and my friends was ordinary.
Mm.
But then all of a sudden, it became extraordinary. And I'm saying to myself, how is radar extraordinary? So we've lowered the standards to applause people like, did you see little Johnny open the door for his grandmother? It's like, well, he's supposed to. So it's like, wow, like we have to really acknowledge that.
Yeah.
Did you see, him carry the groceries? It's like, well, what? So now, believe it or not, we've taken that for granted. And I says, okay, let's just bring it together, bring it back to basics, and move forward.
Yeah.
So, one of the things was I was so focused on human performance, such as my academics and how the body moves and acts and responds to, an injury or adverse forces, and how to manipulate force and how to produce force. That's the athletic world. Then you go into the mindset, same thing. How does the mind manipulate force, produce force, and act on the body? So, extraordinary becomes in the mind first.
Mm.
And that's what kind of brought me to human behavior performance. So human behavior performance, we're always admiring someone's athletic ability, work ability, even academic ability. But that's in one compartment. Those are your external resume.
Mm.
So what I mean by your external resume is that if you look at my name with all my thing, the DPT, the MPT, the BS, the CS, whatever, MP, it just keeps on going, and PTA, but you never forget that. But someone would say, like, what is all that? Well, guess what? You could be introduced with all that stuff, but what leaves you in the door or makes a lasting relationship is your internal resume on radar.
Mm.
So your external resume, your academics, your achievements, that gets you in the door. I get it. But what leaves you in the door and gives you the opportunity to have other doors open is your radar ship. It's, are you a bull? And what I mean by a bull is that not a bull in a china shop, but that's like these wings behind you.
The fingers, right. The horns.
That's right. It's a bull, like ability.
Yes.
Are you parentable?
Mm.
Are you teachable? Are you coachable? Are you employable? So that takes an ability, but it takes more than ability of just your academics and your didactics. It takes your social ability to have compassion, empathy, dignity, and drive, and all those things that inspire people to get to know you for a long period of time, and people who want to trust you and do business with you for a long period of time.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of legacy, right, from the human behavior performance that you want to strike people with because you want to make a difference in your surroundings.
Man,
And
I really hear it. The character, like what is our character that we're bringing into the world? And a lot of character development has been very soft, and that those basics of respect and attitude and determination, like this, and discipline, like these are the basics, but oftentimes are not getting taught and reinforced and demonstrated and role modeled by the parents as well. You know, they're not being committed to that. And so I love what you're bringing to the world. I love what you're bringing to students, to athletes, to people who want to improve their performance, to people who want to just amp up their behavior so that the results of their life creates that legacy, creates that impact, Vince. It's really powerful. I want to go back into your journey and talk about what inspired you to become a doctor, to be in therapy. Like, what inspired you, man?
Well, first of all, I love athletics.
Yeah.
I played basketball as my passion. I used to eat, sleep, and breathe that, and you know, I had great coaching all the way, and I have to give so much credit to a great coach, Bill Scarnati. He started the pack really from Elmwood Park, St. Leo's, and recreation, and then Coach Kanoth lifted and embraced basketball in the town. And we went on as a nucleus. We stayed together because I have to tell you, the radar ship with the nucleus from back in the day, and that's what it was. We walked, we ate together, we slept together. We just did so much embracing.
Wow.
We would fight, we would make up, we would compete, and we learned to compete and we learned to lose, but we hated to lose. And that's the thing. We were taught to win.
Yes.
Work hard to win. And when someone was better, we accepted that, but we came back and we just couldn't stand to lose. And that empowered us so much that we went on to, and I played varsity 4 years.
Wow.
And we won the states 2 years. And then I went on to college, and I always wanted to be a professional basketball player. You know, I scored a lot of points in grammar school, well over 1,000, you know, in grammar school. And then I went to Farleigh Dickenson University, and I was on the athletic wing, and it was a lot different for me. I was taking science classes, anatomy, physiology, chemistry, and then that August I had my load, and I had to make a decision that I says, geez, I want to play basketball, but then I had to make that decision to say, you know what, and I got recruited, and I says, you know what, I have to stick to my academics, and I got stuck in the athletic wing. Well, they all traveled and did the sports, and I'm studying, you know, and my roommate, you know, he was all about 6'8", and he could hardly fit on a bed, and he was from Newark, and he was a big guy, and it was great, but, you know, it was a little bit tough on me and pressure. And I was the first one in my family of 8, 6 boys, 1 girl, and I went away to college.
Wow.
So, you know, our upbringing, we had to fight for each other. We had to fight with each other. And it showed us that mindset that nothing comes cheap. You have to work and strive. So that was a work ethic in the household. And that's how it goes. So then I went on to PT school. And it wasn't good enough for me. And I went for my bachelor's degree. Wasn't good enough for me. I went to Florida, got married, moved there. And then I went to, you know, Nova, got my master's. It still wasn't fitting for me. And I went on to my doctorate. So you just keep on going and be persistent. And, you know, my story just shows what it ought to be. You got to struggle. You have to be put in positions to fail.
Yeah. I'm curious. What is different about your drive back then when you were in college and getting into college and getting these degrees? What's the difference between that drive and today's drive? Because I feel like the drive is still there. What's different about like the distinction of the drive? How has it evolved?
Well, 2 things. One is that, you know, you want to achieve and you want to be a provider. So, you know, you want to choose a career that you could love and not hate. So that was medical field and going to physical therapy. So I want to make a difference in people's lives, but I want to make a living too.
Yeah.
And I want to enjoy what I do. So I knew with the push of my wife, because I have to tell you a true story, I was finished going for school for my master's. I thought that was enough.
Yeah. And
the doctorate program came out at Nova Southeastern University. And she got this letter. She thought it was like this other thing, maybe a bill. And she opened it because we do follow the HIPAA law, but it's cool. My bills are her bills and whatever. So she opened it, and it said, "Okay, we're starting a doctorate program." I'm like, I just got finished. She goes, "Nope, let's call the school, whatever." So she got that going. So I commuted actually from New Jersey to Florida, back and forth with the family.
Wow.
So it was that kind of drive. That the nucleus, that's the thing. If you have my mom calls this bookends, and if you have stuff, as long as you have, people supporting you, that's the way to go. So that's the whole thing. You need support system,
yes.
and if not, it becomes a drag. So she was spot on with that. But that's my personality too, to take that on. And then after that, now that you're settled, but never settled. You just never settled. It's just that keeps on going.
It's the drive. It's the drive of winning. You love to win. You love to achieve new things. You love to experience that. There's like lots of different kinds of winning that people can do. They can just go do lots of winning for money and just be money hungry and be unfulfilled and on a hamster wheel forever. Money is good, and what is the drive creating in our life? What's the impact? What's the legacy that we're leaving, which we're going to be diving into even more today, which I love that your radar ship, it's focused around character building. It's focused around who are you being and how are you role modeling great values for the people around you to show up and succeed. I think it's so important to have that drive, to have that burning desire to win, to achieve something, to go somewhere, to experience a vision. And then there's also the humility to learn from people around us, the knowingness that we're not better than anyone else. Nobody is better than us, right? And to be in that journey together and keep showing up, man. So I want to talk about moving forward, taking this into the radar formula, this thing that you trademarked it. You created this custom formula for living a great life and having that behavior be in alignment with being our greatest possible selves and making our best life. How did you say, I want to package this up and be able to serve people with it? What caused that for you, man?
Well, what happened was it all started where sadly, my nephew was at Rutgers University, and there was a suicide by because he was bullied. He was actually bullied at the university, and that was a sad moment. But that was in New Jersey, we took on this big program about anti-bullying, and everything was anti-bullying and anti-bullying. And if you look at the word anti, and then you have the DARE programs and anti. So, I've learned, and I have many, many cycles of psychology. Yes. I mean, so much. So it's not like I'm just making this up. But we've learned that negative reinforcement actually could take a negative effect and kind of encourage more negative behavior.
What I'm hearing is anti-bullying, just to translate that, make sure that it lands for people. The anti and then the bullying, the key word that the mind focuses on is bullying, right? Like it's almost like the mind doesn't understand, like, don't think about the purple elephant. What are you going to think about? Purple elephant.
I have a sports psychologist. He's great, Dr. Gilbert, and he called it the pink elephant.
Yes.
That's good. So I'll call it purple and pink, and that's all good. The bottom line is that it's spot on.
Yeah.
So everything was about no. So I always have to say this. If you're teaching a 17-year-old kid how to drive or even hit a ball, if you're going to spend hours on telling them what not to do, how dry that is. It doesn't even make sense. Don't do this, don't do that. It's like, forget it. How about tell me what to do?
Yes.
So I bring you back into the 70s and the 80s. And this is how I find things interesting. Our upbringing was always about what to do. My father and my mom didn't say, well, how do you feel about if I ask you to take out what do you mean, how do I feel about it if I ask you? But you do it, and that's it.
Yeah.
Well, you may get a side stare, And if you made a grunt, you got questioned.
Yeah.
And then maybe you have to think about the grunt. So the thing is that you just had to do it.
Yes.
So then all of a sudden we got really smart,
Mm-hmm.
and we got involved in the development of psychology for a child, and we said we need to get their view on things and ask them their opinion about it. So that's the transition. So now we're making deals and have this big conversation about what they feel and how they should do it and when, whatever. So we forgot the structure of, listen, by Friday, you need to just get this done.
Yep.
If not, you're not going out.
Boom.
And then that's it. So, we have to remember the frontal lobe of the brain. And I always thought that, like my dad always said, and my mom kind of, your frontal lobe is developed. My father was telling me your frontal lobe is developed by your 18. And there's no swinging doors kind of thing. Like, that's when it's developed. So, okay, you're 18 or when you're a teenager. But your frontal lobe is developed when you're 24. That means your emotional, cognition, consequences, development skill till you're 24.
Wow.
So that's amazing. 24 years old. This kid's done with college, and
quarter of a century. That's a lot of influencing.
So that's a lot of, like, Bob Barker making a deal or whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's confusing. So what we need to do is bring it back to the radar ship. But then within the radar ship, right?
Yep.
We have the 11 elements.
Okay.
And each of those radar goes into each of those 11 elements.
Wow.
And that brings it right back to, family. That's it. That's the first radar ship that's taught. And then after that, you get into faith. And faith doesn't always mean, the crucifix.
Right.
Over here.
Right.
Like, this is my pillow over here. I was doing an exercise with my son today. The cross came out. I felt like my pillow. Guys, kind of funny. But anyway, it's about believing in yourself.
Yes.
Right? What's possible for yourself. It's believing in your school system, believing in your family. Okay? If you believe in the telephone pole out there, that's great. But there's someone bigger than you. If you think you're it, then we're not here. That's the point. So whatever it is, it's faith in yourself and your surroundings, your team, your school, whatever. And that's how it goes. And of course, friends and that. But that's the important message, is that today we need to slow down a little bit and bring it back to those basic value systems to check in, because your blueprints are developing before you're even created by whoever created you. They have a plan.
Yep.
They didn't just it's created. So, okay, where are we going to put Johnny? We have an idea. So the blueprints are created, but often we want to hang a chandelier before the framing's even done in the house.
Yep.
And we get things all distorted with, and I call it the Noun Principle. It's real simple. Persons come before things, and persons come before places.
Wow.
And that's the radar ship. It's a noun principle. And that's kind of, and even my students and my workers and stuff, they get that.
Yeah.
If they're worrying about, that thing over there, there's a person here who's struggling and is standing and needs to have a chair behind him for a walker. Yeah. And you're worrying about, wiping the machine down. I get it, but not important. It's so I think we've changed for lots of reasons. That's another whole topic. Who cares? The bottom line is we could all have the blame game, right? It doesn't matter. Right. But we need to stop and just own accountability, own a situation, and work through it as one unit, one family, one team. And I'm finding that that's a hard struggle. I don't care if it's politics is the division. I don't care if it's a difference of an opinion or judgment. But the big thing I always say about judgment and opinion, two things. Don't judge unless you know the story. And don't give an opinion unless you're asked. But all of a sudden, we're just feeling free to do that. And I always said that, when you're 65 years old, because, the big thing that we had to do growing up is we had to listen, right? And look.
Mm.
So big eyes, big ears, and a small mouth.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how you develop wisdom.
Yeah.
But I know that the tongue actually is the strongest muscle in the body. And we're using the tongue as not only the strongest muscle to say so much, but to think.
Mm.
And we're forgetting that we need to go up supertentorial and start thinking and processing before we speak. And that's a huge thing that we're finding, that we're just too quick on that and we're not being thoughtful. But if you spend so much time on someone's journey through walking with them,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Versus saying, I'll meet you 2 miles away, walk with them a little bit, then you could have that dialogue and a relationship where you could actually have that talk about judging moments that they may have or an opinion because you have a relationship. But when people are sitting on a perch with their arms folded from afar and coming around the corner and saying, I think you should, you know what? You're not in the radar ship when things are good. Only when there's a crisis. So don't bother. And that's important. That's very important.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about the crises that I think a lot of people may not be prepared to handle effectively, to be able to show up powerfully rooted in values, because oftentimes we're just not trained growing up to handle difficult situations with that character, and we've built up a unconscious pattern of showing up unresourcefully, with not the best like coping mechanisms, not the best thought process, not the best ability to handle our energy. Tell us a little bit more about how we can change that, Vince.
Well, I could tell you, over the last, I can't tell you, we had so many mental health issues, crises, and it ranges from all over, and even family with the aging. There's no one prescription, right? There's no one prescription to say you do this or that. When someone starts to say it should be this way because you do this and you do that, and you know what happens? Chaos.
Mm.
And then if you don't have a relationship before the crisis, it's called disorganized chaos.
Mm.
So it's two different things. You could be in a crisis situation, but if you have a relationship that's grounded with good values, then it's organized chaos.
Mm.
So you can have certain, everyone has a moving part to participate. Sometimes being present is enough.
Yeah.
But I find that people can't even be present because they're somewhere else, or they make excuses not to be present. So, my mom always says, and even with our children, and I wrote an article on a crisis, because a lot of kids are going to and dealing with mental health issues that result in horrible endings.
Mm.
And sometimes the kids come to the office, and I'm working with a lot of student athletes that are dealing with this epidemic of mental health. And they say, well, I have to go to a wake. I have to, and I don't know what to say. So they don't actually want to go because they don't want to say. I say, you know what? You say nothing. It's okay to say nothing. If you go and you're present, that's enough. And that's impacting, because if you're leaving these people that are hurting just because you feel you have nothing to offer, your presence is. However, if you're going to try and one-up somebody by going, and then you're going to sneak in your story that seems to be worse than theirs, you know what? Then don't go. Because at that point, when someone's in a low crisis, they really don't need to hear you weigh in on how bad your life is. So sometimes big eyes, big ears, small mouth works. Be present, own your presence, and think radar ship. And sometimes we have a difficult time putting yourself, right? And that's the word empathy. Putting yourself in their shoes and just zipping it.
Yeah.
But no, we want to weigh in on how bad your life is.
Mm.
When they walk away, go, really? Like, and it leaves emptiness.
Yes. Yes.
And that's
Because there was no connection. There was no
no.
real hearing, because if someone has chaos and trauma and things going on in their life and they just want someone to listen, they want to feel heard, they want to feel validated, then if someone's trying to talk to them and give them a bunch of opinions and potential solutions, it's not going to land, because there's just so much that they're dealing with that they don't have the capacity to do that. But the real difference maker would be someone who just allows them to hear themselves and like talk themselves and be able to express and not keep things so suppressed and repressed and pushed down, but like just to share what is going on. I think we create so much clarity in our own life simply by sharing it with others and having people who allow us to feel safe to share those things with them.
Well, I just don't think that people understand, and they take genuinity wrong. They actually think that there must be a motive, because you're saying like, and you're present so much. They're like, well, are they phony? It's like, no, be consistent. Whoever's consistent, whether it's good times, bad times, whatever. And sometimes, we're so focused that we never look. We're focused on your own journey, and we never look left and right. So this radar ship with the 11 elements really tries to guide you to look left and right. Never forget where you came from, your home. Reminds you to be charitable, and gives you also little concepts of jabs throughout the radar ship lifestyle.
Right.
Game day, you used the word winning, right? But game day does not always mean put on cleats. Game day is this tonight with me and you. Yep. Game day is just showing up and being realistic in reality, and being truthful. So, it doesn't always have to be, sports.
Yeah, and there's so many different avenues that we could dive into, but that one really stood out to me, Vince, because I think that there's a mindset of, I'm here to perform. I'm here not in a like a circus act kind of way, but I'm here to give 100% of my focus, of my energy, of my being. And game day could be, hey, I'm gonna schedule a call with my family, with my parents, once a week. And I will show up on that call, not distracted, not on my phone, not, trying to do a million things, but like really be present with them. That's freaking game day. If that's an area of growth that someone needs to expand into, it's whatever is important that someone is wanting to level up and achieve new results in.
Well, that's the whole thing about making we could think of legacy as, a traditional legacy, right, is and supercharge your legacy. But you have to charge one first before it becomes supercharged.
Amen.
So charging it is your presence, right? Yeah. But one really never sees their legacy through because they're gone. So people will feel that legacy that was left. So it's the feeling.
And they will carry it on. They will carry on those values. They will carry on that radar ship.
Well, the thing is that someone says, when you leave a legacy to someone, and I've asked many aging people, right? What would be your legacy? Yeah. And, I come up with two things that I thought about is, make a difference and don't be difficult. So what I mean by that is that make a difference of moving people. And again, Chris, we think about legacy. Sometimes we get to that noun principle, and this is powerful. The legacy is, leave me this, this thing, houses, whatever it may be, right? That's a thing. Guess what? You just made things difficult. So my point is that you as a person, your movement as a human, behavior performing, that's memorable because that goes to conversation at dinner, little things when you're away, reminding you of, what was said at the dinner table, all of those things that can move you to make a difference in your own brand and making your own blueprints. And then if there happens to be some things, great. But if you have a relationship that was a noun principle from the get-go, the blueprints were made early on from radarship into the 11 elements, you could leave the Taj Mahal to somebody and it wouldn't matter, because it's just a great thing to host the most of family that had a relationship. That could be a legacy. It only makes, because that's making a difference in your being and what was happening in your life, that people could remember that you were present, you did, and did charitable stuff too. You looked left, you looked right, and you anticipated people's needs and you showed up. And then if they happen to have some stuff left, things, believe me, it will be the more the merrier, not the more headaches. And that's the whole legacy. That is supercharging a legacy.
I love it. I love it. Vince, I want to dive in. We've been talking about radar. I want to go over that, and then the 11 areas of life and elements, I believe. I want to dive into how can people actualize this on a daily basis? What can they do to really implement this new awareness, this new commitment and decision to master the basics? What's the best way to really bring this philosophy and embody it and integrate it into someone's life, man?
Well, first of all, I've tried to, and someone told me trying's failing, right? Because then you're not doing it. So anyway, that's kind of funny.
Try to raise your hand. That's
it. But anyway, it's being persistent and having drive, right?
Yes.
So you have this radar ship kind of thing. You wake up every day and you say, well, what am I doing? Well, I'm going to exercise. So my family is addicted to exercise.
Heck yeah.
And self-care is so important. And we can't make a difference in anyone's life if we don't have self-care, self-esteem, and self-efficacy. Period. It just can't go. You're going to get burned out and get frustrated. So you got to hold your composure, and you got to be in some kind of health and fitness wellness program, because you're never going to maximize your ability to perform. I don't care what it is, radarship, athletics, work, or whatever. So that's important. That's not a selfish thing. And people think, okay, I'm a former Mr. New Jersey Grand Prix. I forget about it. But one would think in the moment that that's a selfish thing. It is a selfish sport, but that's an individual sport. But that taught me grit and grind. I did it myself. Had great people surrounding us, from like Bill Scarnati and Frank Catania and Tommy Potenza. And these guys are all at Hawthorne Fitness. These guys, we had a gym that united us to be tough and grit and work through it and compete. So that's important. You need to take that in the workplace and at home and show the same thing. But self-help and self-care is so important. So when you do that, then you're thinking also nutrition, hopefully. What you put into your body is how your body performs. So me as a personal trainer, doctor of physical therapy, it's all about that. That's energy. Exercise and food is energy.
And I want to highlight this because in the beginning of my journey, I was more focused on, well, I'm supposed to go work out and exercise a ton because I can eat and drink whatever I want, have all these pre-workouts, shakes, like not good shakes though, like lots of stuff and supplements that weren't necessarily in my body's and my nutrition wise, not in my best interest. So I think also asking ourselves, why are we going to the gym? What is the result? What is the vision? Is this a lifestyle that I'm engaging in, or is it just to achieve some kind of temporary gratification and I'm willing to sacrifice and my body and take shortcuts that end up costing me in the long run? And for me, like, I was willing to kind of take more shortcuts in the beginning. I was like, wait a second, I'm going about this health thing all wrong, or not all wrong, but this portion's off. It's not quite hitting the mark. And since meeting my girlfriend, dude, she's helped me dial in my nutrition so much. I'm so grateful for her. So having someone around you who can help you with that is so important.
I mean, that's important. So I call that what's your fits. And you say, what's your fits?
Yeah.
Fitness, intention, intensity, training zone. What's your fits?
Wow. Wow.
So, fitness, what's your goal?
Yep.
What is it? It could be, speed, strength, whatever it may be. Yep. What's your intention? What's going to be your intensity of that day? Wow. That's adjusted with duration on a treadmill, your RPMs on a bike, it doesn't matter. And then what's your training zone? Wow. So what's your fits? So that's how you narrow and dial in. So bodybuilding fits is different. Mm-hmm. Losing weight fits is different. Speed, agility, quickness fits is different. And hypertrophy is different. And just circulation is different. And just surviving. Yeah. It doesn't matter. But hopefully you could be able to train what's appropriate for you to make you move better throughout the day. Yeah. So when I train people, 5 things happen. First, they feel different. That's it. And it takes time. Second is that they're going to move better. Mm-hmm. They're going to move better. The next thing, someone's going to say that they have more pop about them or whatever it is. The next thing is that their clothes will fit different. And the last is the aesthetics. But we didn't talk about weight. So this is about self-esteem. Yeah. And if people don't feel good about themselves, it's not going to work. Mm. So, I've had every shake under the sun. GNC, every time you go in every month, they have a new thing that's great. And then all of a sudden you go next month, what happened to that stuff? Oh, this is even better stuff. So they're trying to supercharge you on all this stuff. I have no idea. Supercharge you with all this stuff, but also charge it at your wallet too. So if the guy in there who's 19 years old, he's telling you about this new thing, and then when I see him in like 2 months from now, I'm like, well, what happened to that stuff? Oh, it's a new stuff. Anyway, so it gets confusing out there. Yes. So we just got to narrow it down. But getting back to what do you do during the day? So you do that, you determine your fits, and then at your workplace, you go make a difference. I happen to be in the medical field, so that's my thing. And the big thing, what just happens to me, that we have a boutique facility. We take tissue. We take your pathology. If you come there for a knee, I take your pathology beyond. I take the treatment and care beyond the pathology. I've looked at people with a total knee operation, and I sit there after listening first for 15 minutes. I'm not even worried about their total knee anymore. They got so much other stuff that is way more deeper than their total knee. Total knee is orthopedic, it's easy. They got some serious mental health issues. They're hurting. I call it a living, bleeding heart. Many of the aging population have a living, bleeding heart. They are so hurt that their family didn't come see them after the total knee operation for 2 weeks and left them stranded more than their knee pain. So now I got to deal with this. And they're like, well, who can I call? Well, I don't know. No one gets along. Well, what do you mean no one gets along? Can I call anybody? No, this one, no, they're no good. And then now it's like they're 75 years old. And now the blueprints from radar ship was not there. Mm. So that's tough.
Yeah, I was going to say, how do we implement those blueprints? I mean, we're covering a lot of really great stuff. I know anyone who's taking notes, like, this is gold, like, to be able to remind ourselves, to put it on sticky notes, things like that. Is there any other more comprehensive way that we can make sure that we're hitting all these points, man? Because this is like a lifestyle upgrade,
Yeah, I mean, anytime you talk about humanity, it's about look, it's basic, I think, and should come natural, but it doesn't. Because there's so many variables out there that interfere and collude us. Yeah. And, there's mental illness that does that too. I mean, in all fairness, the picket fence with the dog in the porch with the swings is a great idea. It's far from reality. Yep. So we have to understand also, sadly, not everyone gets along. And we have to accept that not everyone gets along. It's okay. Right. when it goes to a level of you can't even get along at a wake or a wedding, we're in trouble.
Mm.
So that's where we're almost at today, that we struggle as a family. Wakes and wedding, we don't even get along.
Wow.
So if we go back to that radar ship, right? I could. Some people can't. You know why? They never had it.
Mm.
They never had it. So now, what do they say? You're going to teach somebody. I've heard you can't teach. A 65-year-old,
Yep.
whatever. It's tough to teach someone else if they're 50 years old, or it's very difficult to do that. So that's the struggle.
Mm.
But that's the family nucleus, and that's the blueprint. So you're saying, where are they? It's tough to get back to that, and it's important, with the blueprints.
Well, I know, like, for example, if I see something on a daily basis, I remember it. I remember what is going on. I remember my values. I remember my vision, my goals, where I want to be headed. And so if there's something like that our audience can really take action on, especially as we begin to wrap up this interview, like what do we want to give them so that they can take with them and be able to execute on, man? Because I know there's a lot.
Just as a humanity standpoint of view, we wake up every day and you talk about responsibility. You wake up and you say, hey, what's my role for the day? You could be a mom or dad or whatever it may be. That's important. At the workplace, what's your role? Mm. And your role, sometimes we get confused with your role is looking at everyone else's role.
Mm.
No. Your role. Yeah. When we're at that workplace, right, we go back to that. You were hired for a certain role. And then all of a sudden at 3 months, you want a raise. But we go back to your responsibility. You didn't fulfill your responsibility. So how could you ask for a raise? So that's important. Being accountable every day, looking at yourself and say, who's accounting on me? Mm. And what do I have to do so that people could rely on me to be present, to be there, and have a good understanding with humanity that if someone can't, you could pick up the weight a little bit. That's important. The other thing is that surround yourself with people who appreciate your doing, but also look beyond the workplace, look beyond your family, look around the world. Yep. And appreciate other things. This is where you can go back to things. Look at water, trees, the sky. Take a breather. Appreciate that stuff because you're not it. Look above you, outside your mirror, and appreciate that stuff. Having drive, determination to be persistent, showing that fortitude that will be encouraging by others and give other people a wow effect that, wow, how do you do it? Well, focus, listen, learn. You have to develop wisdom and really have that drive to do that. Attitude, it's amazing. Just because the day is powerful, there's a lot going on, you could feel a vibe of an attitude. And sometimes, we have fake trees in our office that look real.
Yep.
And, because, or they even, I think the fake trees, there's so much positive energy that they grow, I think there's one guy who even watered our fake plants because he thought they were so real. So what I'm saying is that the attitude of a tree that's fake is even grow. Because that's what you want to do. You want to embrace positive attitude and, of course, respect. The big thing is that there's so many different things going on out there in the world. And if you don't respect yourself, it's difficult and you're going to struggle to respect others. But respect things too. Just because it's property too, other people's property. Yep. And that's the kind of game day you have to have every day. And self-care in the morning, train, workout, nutrition, be charitable. Charity, when someone says, oh, I went by so-and-so, you know what I call charity? Charity is not doing someone a favor. Mm. Charity is being inconvenient, that you're removing yourself from you taking time away from you and giving it to someone else without looking back and saying, what's it in for me? That's important.
Wow.
So, we have to think that way. When you talk about skill, practice your skill. It could be physical therapy, it could be baseball, but your human skill too.
Yep.
I don't care if it's piano or whatever it may be. And training, we talked about personal training, physical training, exercise, but that those don't have to be that way. It's training your craft, and that's important. And a lot of times we think that we know everything, and that's scary. So you always have room for more knowledge, and that's important. So game day is every day. That's important, and what you put into your body is important. And one would say rest is key. And I know it's tough. We put in long days. Sometimes this is where you need your pillars. I call your pillars your immediate family, your spouse, your loved ones right there to say, hey, you know what? Put on the brakes a little bit and remove yourself from your stuff. And you want to surround people that kind of get, and understand your situation. So it's not easy, a lot of moving parts, but that is the radar ship all the way from responsibility, accountability, appreciation, determination, add to respect in the 11 elements.
Man, I love it. Vince, this is gold. And I know you are sharing about this. You're empowering people with this. I want to teach our audience how they can stay connected with you. What are the next steps that they can take to be able to continue that journey and keep growing with you, brother?
Well, I mean, they could always follow me on Facebook. I'm not a tech guy, so it's funny. I just started a YouTube channel, and I'm doing 3 things on YouTube. Yeah. I do rehab. I do some motivation stuff and some training, just a little bit, tips like that. On Facebook, I do the same thing, but really I use Facebook for 3 things. I want to just share some stuff, teach a little bit, but I also use it as an archive for my own family fun and friends, things that's memorable for me. It's really cool because sometimes 5 years, like this morning, I woke up and I saw my daughter when she was running, when she was like, 5 years ago, or my son doing deadlifts at the university. It's really cool. And a great picture of my wife and I, on a vacation. Yep. And it comes up, or my family at a gathering at Thanksgiving. So I love that. So that's what it's for. A little bit of Instagram. I'm just but probably guys like you are going to help me more than anything else. But also, I hooked up with a friend of yours, Brian Wright, great guy. And I've been, Brian?
Yep. Brian Wright's a champion, man.
He is. So anyway, kudos. He's going to be hopefully ghostwriting a book for me on Radar.
Boom.
Yes,
let's get it out, man. This is gold. Your journey's been so powerful, dude. Like, it's been so powerful. So they go to your Facebook. They can type in Facebook.com/Vince Burke DPT. And then your Instagram is Instagram.com/Vince Burke DPT. And then YouTube, they can just search you there as well and find you there, right?
Yeah, that's easy. And that's it. And I give my cell phone number out too. Probably it's nonstop, and I'm getting buzzed, but it's okay. That's who I am. I don't know.
It's right. Well, it's that drive that you have to serve people, to really make a difference, man. It's
good.
It's inspiring.
And the thing is that, and I can tell you this much: I could never be sitting here if it weren't for pillars and my family and my blueprints. 100%. So credit to everybody. And my older brother Bobby, lights out what he does. Big show and tell guy, but inspiration. My sister. All my brothers, my mom to death, great job. And my 2 kids, wonderful wife, Ace. And that's important because I'm telling you right now, and all my family, who's been inspiration to me, especially my father who just passed away. But anyway, called him Dad. Great guy, silent guy in a lot of ways, but he said a lot with not saying a lot. So anyway, appreciate all that they've done for me. My wife's family all the way through, and I appreciate that. So that's my thing, and all my patients and clients. Thank you so much, because if it weren't for you, I couldn't do any radarship with anybody. But it is about moving your body and mind together to be more connected in other than yourself, not the noun principle, persons over
things. Yeah, dude. This is great. Vince, I'm so stoked to see this radarship get into more schools, get into more kids, youth's hand to help them develop into great human beings, man. I love the work that you're doing. If someone wanted to contact you about coming out to their school or getting involved in their different workplace or something like that, can you tell us just a little bit about that, man?
Well, what I could do is, I've gone to even, I went to St. Leo's Grammar School, and believe it or not, I did a whole radarship on the national anthem.
Wow.
It's on Facebook. I think I had like 3,900 hits on it. I have no idea. They watched it, and it was unbelievable. But think about that. I went back to my grade school and did the national anthem, and it was unbelievable just to have their own mindset on what they should be thinking about. So I did. My Elmwood Park High School, where I went to school, I went there. I've talked to about the radarship. I have a student-athlete radar program, and it's that connection with radarship. And then they would get stickers they could put on their cell phone or a radar sticker on the back of their helmets. You know, we always talk about giving somebody a tomahawk or that they just made a crazy tackle. But these stickers go on the right side of the helmet, because that's the right way to be, and that's your balance system. Then I have these radar patches that they can go on the right shoulder of uniforms, and even ones with grommet, and then a magnet. And the magnet goes on the right side of the car of their mom or dad's car, so that when they open the door, they can look at the radar instead of, ripping into mom and dad, their life and stuff. Hey, slow down, little radar ship before you get in the car.
Yes, dude.
Then the schools could get big banners, a 3x6 banner with the name of the school on it, with that big banner, with radar, with all the elements and the principles there, and how we could just make it happen. It's just creating a culture and an awareness.
Yep,
that's it. It's really
that's
what
it
is. And if you start young, that's the blueprints, and you carry it all the way through, all the way up to high school. Because what happens is you're going to develop your internal resume.
Mm-hmm.
People, I always tell my athletes, show people what you do and what you say. They'll ask you your name.
I love it. Vince, we're dropping so much value in this, man. Thank you so much for being here today, bringing the love, bringing the wisdom. You're a champion. Thank you so much, brother.
All right, man. Peace out. Yep. I'll see you.
Have a great day, bro.